woodcraft, helping you make woodwork.
Okay, I got the thumbs up from Nick. Let's get started here. I'm Bob Schmidt, and this afternoon I'm just going to spend a few minutes. This won't take very long. I was going to show you how I constructed a circle jig for my bandsaw. Some, maybe all of you already have one of these things, so I'm probably preaching to the choir here, but I'll go ahead and demonstrate what I did and a couple little changes that I made to help do what I wanted to do. My personal impetus for making this jig was for wood turning, for cutting bowl and platter blanks, making them as perfectly round as you can before you put it on the lathe. And the reason for that is typically when you're turning wood, you want to have that lathe turning as fast as is safely possible. And so by starting out with an almost perfectly round bowl blank, you can really spin that thing up right from the get-go. So that's why I did this. I gave you a little handout here, and it kind of shows some of the steps. I'm going to go over it, but the one thing that I would encourage you to do, if you can get on the internet, is go to YouTube, and there's a video on there that was this guy from the Woodworkers Guild of America. And so I gave you the little search term. Go into YouTube, and then the little search window, just type in WWGOA, which stands for Woodworkers Guild of America, bandsaw circle jig, and that video will come up. It was that video that I got the inspiration to do what I'm going to do. So basically the jig that I built is in 4 pieces, and I'll show you those. And maybe before I show you this, the material for making these things, what's a good material to use? Some kind of sheet stock, whether it's plywood or MDF. Melamine works very good too because it's got a slick surface. Basically what you're after is a nice smooth surface so you can rotate the stock against it. So this is the basic framework. This is out of 3/4 inch MDF. And you can see that what I did, this width is based on this width right here. Now when you build one of these things, it almost has to be brand specific because the Powermatic, the dimensions may be a little bit different from a Laguna or a Delta or something like that. But they all kind of work the same, but you might have to, you know, where it's 6 inches on one bandsaw, it might be 7.5 on the other. So basically I got here what I call the bottom plate, and then these are the rails on top, and this is meant obviously to sit over that. Now this bottom plate, as you can imagine, is snug up against the front of the bandsaw fence itself. So and you can see now I made this a little narrower than the table because I want to be able to slide it back and forth. And why do you want to do that? The pivot pin that will sit on this sliding arm, the center of that pin, you can eyeball this, you don't have to measure it so accurately. The center of that pin should be in line with the front of the teeth on the bandsaw. So now I got this thing sitting here like this. Well, obviously that's not going to work. So what I did is I came up with some clamp down cleats. And I'll show you, you see these little scraps of MDF right here, and you'll see how those come into play. There's holes drilled here for the so little knobs from Woodcraft here. And so this goes up from the bottom, goes through that hole, and this side will sit under that little scrap there, and this side then clamps under the table, so it obviously it just pulls it up. Okay, so let me see if I can get that fed through there. The eyes are not like they used to be. Come on. Wow, there we go. Get this thing spun on here. And one more on this side. Now my bandsaw, or yeah, my jig, it's exactly like this. When I've got a Jet 20-inch bandsaw at home, and this area over here is wide enough that I don't have to take these things off. I can just push it back, lift it up, and off it comes. But because this is pretty narrow over here, I have to remove the cleats. So I'll wait to tighten that up, but this is not going to fall down now. Now the sliding arm with the pivot pin in it right here. Now something I did different than what you see in most of these bandsaw circle jigs is I ran this over the table saw and I cut a dado in here, and this is just a piece of steel strap I got at Ace Hardware, and so I just glued that in here. It's just with epoxy. This is all glued up with woodworker's glue. There's not very many screws. There's no screws at all except for the clamps. So this was all one piece, and I ran it through the table saw and came up with that. The only trick I had visualizing this is kind of lining this whole thing up with the blade. So you can see that pin. This is just a 1/4-inch bolt that I cut off with a hacksaw. Epoxy that in there. Make it stick up 3/8 to 1/2 inch. Oh, and this down here, the reason for this strap is this tightens this. And so if you didn't have the strap here, you'd be chewing into the wood all the time. So this is supposed to fit in here. And it should not be sloppy, okay? When I assembled this and I cut the pieces out, I glued this piece to the bottom plate first, and I just made sure this was square and everything. It doesn't have to be hugely accurate, but just kind of square there a little bit. Let that dry, and then I put this in here and glued this other piece down, and I made it so that it'd be a little stiff, but it'll go. So now I want to run this up here, and I'm going to eyeball that. This is pushed back against the fence. I'm going to pick that up. That should be snug. There, this should not really go anyplace. So what's next? It's a workpiece. The hardest thing about using one of these things is finding this hole and sticking it into the pin because it's on the underside. So you kind of have to monkey around a little bit. Come on. It's there somewhere. Say what? Come on. I know I drilled that thing big enough. Say what? Yeah, you have to edit this out. Come on. Well, this is embarrassing. Come on, it's there someplace. There we go, finally. Okay, so now you can see what we got here. If you're cutting out plywood for like tabletops and you have a certain diameter, safety glasses, usually you don't need hearing protection. Okay, there we go. Now, this don't put massive amounts of pressure on these things. Just snug it up. This should not go anyplace. This is ready to go. Be careful. You might get fixated on turning this thing around. Don't run your finger into the blade. Yeah, forgot that. Let's try this now. As you can see, I just eyeballed this. Oh, let's see. There we go. Loosen that a little bit. So you can see that you can take fairly fine cuts with it and everything until you get the thing adjusted properly, but that's essentially how that works. Now what I want to do is see if this blade is sharp enough to cut through a piece of walnut. I have no idea how old this is. It's very, very dry. When you start cutting bowl blanks, make sure that you cut this as flat as possible. Okay. Now let's see if I can. There we go. Now, I eyeballed this one as well. Let me put that right up there. And I need to raise this up a little bit. Okay. And I don't know why, when I'm turning bowl blanks, I always like to wear gloves. It's probably more dangerous to have gloves on than it isn't, but let's see what we come up with here.
Pretty wood.
There now, mount your faceplate to it, or however you choose to connect it to the lathe, and you can see now that you can start this spinning a whole lot faster than what you had here. Even if you go through and you cut off and make it kind of 8-sided, this is what's really ideal for starting to turn a piece of wood. So now when I made this thing, I was a little concerned initially about this open area right here. Not to worry, because it collects a lot of stuff and it's just easier to clean. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. They're very easy to make, and if you do any amount of wood turning at all, this is really a great thing to have. And if you don't do any wood turning, it's still a great thing to have. So any questions on this, how I put it together, whatever, if you want to, again, don't measure it. If you want to take a picture of it to jog your memory or something, that's fine. So appreciate you coming today. Thank you very much.
Thanks, man.
You bet.
Good job.